How y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about the distribution model of the WWE Network and whether Chris Jericho is owed royalties. So Chris Jericho sat down with Andrew Yang to talk about him ain't getting paid for the WWE Network. This is also something that Jim Cornette and Jim Ross and so many other people have talked about. If they don't understand how royalties are paid out for the network, or why the royalties aren't what it should be, and all that type of stuff. So we're going to get into that today. How are we going to get into that? How are we going to answer this question? We're going to go to SAG-AFTRA, the union for screen actors, which means actors, actresses, and musicians, etc. We're going to go into that. We're going to go into what their standards are for this whole stuff, because this is what Andrew Yang wants wrestlers to do. He wants wrestlers to go into SAG, right? We're going to explain everything. Everything. And then I'm going to give you some analysis. But first, let's go to the complaint. What is the complaint? This is what this is from Fightful. This is a transcription from Fightful. Jericho says, "This has to change, and it's no ill will towards WWE. The fact that they can show all of my matches on their network that people pay for, and I don't give a dime of royalty, it makes no sense. That's not how normal business, normal entertainment, and the normal world works. I did MacGruber 10 years ago, and was in it for 2 minutes. I still get residual checks. It's not a lot, $20, $15, $50, but I'm still getting residuals from being in that movie. Here I am, probably 100 matches on the network and getting nothing. I don't see the fairness in that." Legitimate complaint, okay? Legitimate complaint. So for people who don't understand what residuals are, SAG-AFTRA actually defines what a residual is. A residual and a royalty is the same thing. So residuals, what is a residual? This is from the SAG-AFTRA website. Residuals are additional compensation paid to performers when a production is shown beyond the original use covered by the initial compensation. Okay? Beyond the original use. So they give you an example. There's examples, but let's stop right there. Now let's go to when are residuals triggered. Residuals are not due for the initial release of a production in the market for which it was produced. Okay? So let's take a step back. Residuals are not due for the initial release of a production in the market for which it was produced. If something was produced for the WWE network, you do not get royalties for that. You've already been paid. The upfront payment is your payment. You don't get royalties. Because you performed, just because something exists on the network, you don't get royalties for that. Now they're going to go into a little bit more detail to clear this up, because there are some questions. Continuing, residuals are only due when a production is released beyond the original market for which it was intended, or reruns beyond the original broadcast date or initial exhibition window. All right, so we're gonna give you some examples. If for theatrical exhibition, basically if it was released in the theater, if it's a movie, then residuals are triggered when it is distributed on DVD, when it's distributed for on-demand or pay-per-view, and when it's distributed on TV or new media. New media equals streaming, subscription on demand, electronic sell-through. This means that all wrestlers, assuming they haven't sold the rights to their likeness, all wrestlers who were in WWE during the pay-per-view era, which Chris Jericho would be one of them, would get royalties. Okay? But they will only get royalties on that transaction. So they get a one royalty, like they get royalties for every DVD sold, right? Which means they would get royalties when the show that they were on is uploaded to the network. It's a one-time payment. So Jericho is probably not likely owed any royalties. He was probably already paid for this stuff. So let's continue. So it says, if new media, for extended exhibitions in new media, depending on the budget and or the terms of the agreement, for any move over to traditional media. Okay? So what this means is, if you make something for the WWE network, WrestleMania 30, let's say, because that was network only, all the performers had to be paid up front because they were not going to get residuals. But once the network show was put on DVD, then they get royalties, because now you're changing the distribution model. right? So they get royalties for each DVD sold. If WWE then takes WrestleMania 30 and they send it to Fox, they sell it to Fox so Fox can put it up on their television, you get royalties for that. That's how the royalties are paid out. Okay? You get it paid out per unit used. So what Chris Jericho is looking for is he's saying, "Oh, all my stuff is up on the network already." It's like, yeah, you probably got a bulk payment in your royalties, or it's probably added to all your other royalties for this stuff already. Likely, that's why you're not going to get paid. So when Jim Cornette is like, "Oh, I don't know how it works," this is how it works. When Jim Cornette's material that WWE have in their library somewhere, part of it is they have to go through and take out things for people they don't want to pay, which would include music and all that type of stuff. They have to take all that stuff out. They don't want to have to pay whoever because some bingo hall somewhere decided they want to use Metallica. They don't want to have to pay Metallica for that. So what they go in, they smudge all the music, and then they who's on the show, and do these people own the rights to their own likeness? There's a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo, because some people sell their likeness, some people retain the use of their likeness. It's dependent on the individuals. For instance, Vicky Guerrero recently admitted that she sold Eddie Guerrero's likeness to the WWE. So she doesn't get royalties for what WWE reproducing Eddie Guerrero material. So if they can put, when they did the recent Eddie Guerrero title, she didn't get paid for that because she sold Eddie Guerrero's likeness to WWE. Likely the same thing probably happened with the Ultimate Warrior and with other dead superstars. Families probably sold the rights. Okay, for living superstars who probably still have their rights, they likely got a royalty check. But you only get a royalty check when the distribution model changes. Meaning, if WWE produces DVDs with Chris Jericho on it, Chris Jericho get paid. If they don't, if they just leave it up on the network, then he's already been paid. This doesn't incentivize them to make DVDs. It also doesn't incentivize them to lease out the material that they have, but they still do it because, they're still going to put up different things on Fox Sports 1 and all that type of stuff, like featuring Brock Lesnar and The Rock and all that type of stuff. They're still going to be sending these guys checks. Okay? They're constantly paying these dudes. But in this model, they can control the distribution. That's the point here that we need to really kind of get to, is that you can, in situations where you're selling something, you're selling somebody's likeness, somebody's, intellectual property or whatever, you need to be able to control how much of that you sell, because you need to be able to control how, the cost, right? You need to be able to say, okay, we're going to produce 100 baseball cards with Oscar's face on them. We're not going to produce 100,000 of those goddamn cards, because that's paying her way too much money. We're going to make 100,000 of these cards and put them in a pack, and she's going to get paid for every card sold. It's probably not a lot, just nickels and dimes, but it adds up over time. Everything counts in large amounts. So you are incentivized for them to make more money. If you probably don't remember, but Austin Aries, when he got fired from WWE, the reason he got fired is because he made a stink about not being on that WrestleMania DVD. Why was he not going to be on that WrestleMania DVD? Because they cut his match off. Why was he mad? He was mad because he was not going to get royalties. He was smart enough to know that they're going to make a DVD out of this thing. That's money that should have been in my pocket. It didn't. I'm not going to get that money. He was pissed off. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. He got cut off the damn DVD. That's money in his pocket. Even though it probably wasn't going to be a lot. It was something. Now let's say, you're one of these people who say, Mongo, okay, but you're full of shit. WWE can give these guys more money. They can just, pay out and keep paying and keep paying and keep paying. Then I would say, well, how much are you willing to pay for the network? Because if they have to pay every performer that appears on the network, you're going to have two things. One, you're going to have a rising cost of the network. Two, you're going to have deleting material, because there are going to be certain people that are going to be like, look, it's just not worth it. And they're just going to get rid of it. Okay. And if Chris Jericho is one of those people, which I'm pretty sure he's not going to be, he's probably just making trouble because he can, he can muckrake. is bad PR for WWE because fans don't understand how this stuff works. But let's say Chris Jericho wants to run with this, and he wants to get paid for the WWE network and all this crap. And WWE just says, you know what? Fuck Chris Jericho. We're going to take everything that features Chris Jericho off the network. That you've devalued the network because Jericho got 20 years of work on the network. So you're talking about WrestleMania's gone. You're talking about a lot of B pay-per-views gone. A lot of Raw and SmackDown all gone for over a decade. You're talking about a gigantic black hole of material that's going to just vanish, poof, out of nowhere, right? That's going to damage the value of the network. And it's going to damage the value of the network for everybody. Because then the fans are going to feel screwed because why am I paying and large chunks of the library are missing? And then, you know, if you pay him and you want to give him all this money, then the fans are still going to get screwed because then the network going to be $50 fucking. Okay, then people going to be like, what the hell? I'm not paying all this money. All I do is watch NXT and the occasional pay-per-view. I don't want to pay for that. You know? You have to think about this thing again. I say again, the economy is a chain. It's impossible to focus on one thing without affecting something else. Now, it's possible that, you know, a guy could probably make a big stink about it and get everything taken down, but then the fans would just hate him because he killed the network. Or they would just basically upload only new things to the network, and then everything past 2017 to be gone, you know? Well, a lot of the material will be gone. So if you want to ruin the network, go ahead. Sign up for the whole Jericho needs to be paid for royalties camp, you know? And everybody should be at that point. Then you're going to kill the network completely because think about how much Hulk Hogan is on the network. Just think about that. If Jericho gets his way and he gets paid for every stream or whatever, just think about Hulk Hogan. You're tanking the network. And because I'm assuming, of course, WWE is operating under the same rules as Netflix and everything else. If you were to apply this same thing to every streaming service, you'd kill them all. You kill Netflix, you kill Hulu, you kill all of them. It's impossible to pay that much amount of money so often to so many people because there's so many people that's involved in this thing. Now, WWE can afford to go through and smudge music. Right? They can go through and, you know, Limp Bizkit. No, we don't, you know, we pay Limp Bizkit already. That kind of has run its course. Maybe they pay Limp Bizkit for, you know, DVD distribution and all that type of stuff. Because there is some versions of WWE pay-per-views that have the real Limp Bizkit music on there. And, you know, when they put it up to the network, they scrubbed it, you know. So they have been sending residuals to Limp Bizkit for a while. And then they decide we're not paying these guys anymore, smudge it. It's a very different thing when you're talking about people, right? Like when people thought they were going to get rid of Chris Benoit, they were like, oh man, it's going to be a lot of events missing. But instead they just chose not to promote Chris Benoit, meaning you can't search, you know, for a long time you couldn't search his name and stuff like that. That was just one way of, you know, blacklisting them. But that's how residuals work. You get residuals per distribution model. You know, if it changed from one distribution model to another, then you get residuals. So that means Chris Jericho does not get paid. He is not owed any money unless WWE sells his likeness, for which he has already been paid for, and sells his likeness to someone else like Fox or Peacock. Then he will get paid for that, and that's it. So thank you guys for listening. If you want to double check my work, I will put the SAG-AFTRA citation in the description. Thank you guys for listening. Donate if you can. Please like, subscribe. Please subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.